Hey friends, it's Rena Olson. Welcome to this episode of the Relevate podcast. We are taking an 8,000-mile journey to Karanzi, Tanzania to share more about the nonprofit Ubora Tanzania. Ubora is a Swahili word that means excellence. I have had the privilege of consulting with Ubora for over 3 years now, working in communications, fundraising, and events. And last year, I made my first trip to Tanzania. I share more about that incredible journey in this episode. You'll also have a chance to meet Ubora's president, Dave Burgess, and our operations manager, Emily Weaver. This is a big, sweeping God story. I hope you enjoy learning more about Ubora and the amazing people of Karanzi, Tanzania. Dave Burgess, welcome to the Relevate podcast.
Thanks, Rena. Glad to be here.
I know. It's your second time in the hot seat. You were the president of Ubora Tanzania, which is amazing. And you shared a little bit about your journey because you are an engineer. So that's just such an interesting switch to being an engineer, an entrepreneur, to being a nonprofit executive. So let's just kind of start. And if you can just share a little bit about your background.
Yeah. As you said, engineer by training in school. Was actually never really a good engineer.
Oh, stop.
No, I ended up mostly dealing with customers on the technical side. Could kind of grasp the technical side of things, but then also worry about what the customer needed and wanted. So that's where I fit in. But no, just thrilled to have left that world. It's a wonderful journey. I've also been privileged to do a lot of big hikes and adventures in my life, but this one has been by far the most rewarding and the most exciting. So haven't looked back on the engineering much at all. It's kind of a whole different life.
Yeah. So as a boy, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Trying to remember. I probably, like a lot of young boys, professional sports. So I wanted to be a soccer player. And then really, I think that's probably a big part of the journey is I was good at math. And so everyone just said, you should be an engineer. And so that's what I did. May not have been the path that I should have been on. And so just very blessed to have to found this new path.
Yeah.
But
I think that happens to a lot of us. You just kind of get going in,
yeah.
One direction, and then you're stuck.
Yeah, you find yourself in a place where you may not be the best fit, but that's fine. It is hard to know what you want to be when you grow up. Yeah. I think I can finally say that I've found that.
Yeah. Well, I know that in your home, your dad was a quadriplegic. How do you think that shaped your life as a child and as a man today?
Yeah, I was, I always say I grew up as my dad's hands. Dad, he was just a great guy, knew a lot. I don't know how, he injured himself when he was 26. So I don't know how he learned all the stuff that he did. He knew how to do it, he just couldn't do it himself. And so from a very early age, he would have me change the oil when I was 8 or whatever, and just started doing that. So I think it gave me a sense of empathy, and it's, wanting to serve, enjoy serving. And I think that's maybe where it came from.
So it's so interesting that was part of your background. And you were how old when he got injured?
3 months. So just a baby. And so, yeah, it was just, that's the way it always was. I never really even thought much about it until I was in college and realized, oh, wow, not everyone grew up like that. Mm-hmm. And it says a lot about my mother, too. She stayed with Dad and the rest of his life and cared for him. And it was just a normal upbringing. And, on the plus side, Dad was always at all of my events, very supportive, and overall, great childhood, but probably one of serving him and just being his hands and feet.
Yeah. And he was very much, he could drive, right? He could drive.
Yeah. I don't know how long he was in the wheelchair for many, many years before, the technology came about to where he could drive. And it basically let him out of jail. He always described it being set free when he started to drive.
Wow.
And that really kicked off a lot of the hands-on work that I was doing. It was kind of a bubble gum and duct tape type system that they had back in the 70s. And so we were always fixing it and making it better for him and just rigging it so he could drive.
And I think you shared some kind of scary experiences when he was driving.
There's been all kinds of stories. And I think that's what I love about our family is in this face of the adversity, we just kind of laughed our way through it.
Joy.
Right. I mean, what else can you do? That's the card you've been dealt, and do your best and enjoy it. But yeah, there were several times where he had some adventures because of the wheelchair. Fell in a lake one time in Florida that was, filled with gators and water moccasins.
Oh my gosh. Were you there?
I was not there for that, but I heard about it when I got home. And then I remember one time he pulled out of a restaurant, or I thought there was a cut through in the highway. It was not. It was a curb. And so he went up and over the curb, which jarred him loose from the lock that held him in position to drive. So he rolled away from the steering wheel, and then the van went down the other side of the curb, and it kicked the wheel full left. And so he did a U-turn, but it was a perpendicular U-turn across the highway, came back across the curb, which then rolled him forward back into driving position. He grabbed the wheel and pulled into the parking lot and just casually. And meanwhile, there was a whole bunch of bystanders watching the whole thing because this was in the 70s. There weren't many wheelchairs in Florida. And they saw this guy do this perpendicular U-turn across the curb. And I just nonchalantly pulled out and took the right this time instead of making the left over the curb. So the youth was just filled with that. And what can you do but laugh?
I love the spirit of your dad. That's just so amazing. So let's talk about Ubora, Tanzania, and kind of how it began 20 years ago. If you can just share a little bit about how it all got started.
Yeah, sure. It was started out of Perimeter Church in northern suburbs of Atlanta. Perimeter was looking for a partner to come alongside in their global outreach department. They had not worked with anyone in Africa and thought we can perhaps help in that region. So they sent a young staff member by the name of Tim Neat over to explore and see what was going on there. And that's where he met Pastor Warieli, who was a young Tanzanian pastor helping the village of Karanzi that had been stricken by the AIDS epidemic that was in the region at the time. This was 2002, roughly. Yeah. And we always joked that it was a chance meeting with Pastor Warieli. We all know that God orchestrated that. Absolutely. And Tim came back and described what he saw and the need that was there. There were many, many widows who were on the brink of starvation. Widows in Tanzania are ostracized. They have really no means of providing for themselves. So certainly a big need. Perimeter signed up to help, and that began a relationship that's lasted to this day. It initially started with widow relief, helping them with food programs, and then it branched out to their kids, ultimately leading to a school somewhere around 2005 is when the school started there.
So it started off really as humanitarian relief. Yeah, because they were barely making it. And the way I understood it, that when, a lot of the men died of AIDS and, the women were blamed for it, it was tribal customs that were still in place and they had no rights. So they would lose, not only did they lose their husband, but they would lose their house, and then they were just have all these kids and no place to go. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and the Perimeter people just started, they didn't have a handbook. They just started going and serving and loving on these people and really working with Pastor Warieli to kind of figure it out and to help fund some of these initiatives and really to, like you said, come alongside and, let's figure this out together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's so cool, especially learning about, we were just over there in Tanzania for the 20-year celebration, and to see the widows now I mean, they are so vibrant, so joy-filled, so, robust in spirit. We had a dance party on the fields with the widows, and it was a highlight of the trip for me, for sure. They are just incredible, and they've come so far.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's, before there was really no hope. We hear about the folks that went in those early days, and the thing that stands out the most in their memories, the old timers who went, is that the look in the eye of the ladies back then was a blank stare. Really no hope going on within them at all. And today they're, like, as you said, they're vibrant, and they're ready to dance. And they're just full of hope. There's still a lot of challenges, and still, but you've got a starting point with all the hope that's there.
Right.
Who knows what's possible now with having hope?
Exactly. And the hopelessness in the eyes of the children too. Mm-hmm. And now, especially the kids that go to our school, see how leadership, they're excelling academically. They love Jesus. They just love being at school. They're getting 2 nutritious meals a day. It's just quite a transformation with the children now who are going off to college. And
yeah, you definitely see that same hope in the kids at our school.
Yeah.
And at the same time, when you go out to some of the public schools, you see the lack of hope, just as it was in the widows 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more to do.
Yeah. Well, I know that when Perimeter was looking for that church partner somewhere in Africa, I mean, it was really Tim Neat's assignment was kind of needle in a haystack. It's like, find some place in Africa for us to, to partner with and go long term. Why is that long term approach so important for a nonprofit, would you say?
The biggest thing is building trust. Especially in Africa, there's been so many examples of one and done organizations, very well intentioned, but just it's difficult to do it. It's far away. There are cultural barriers, language barriers, of course, and it's just hard. And so it's just critical that the long-term relationships be there from a trust standpoint.
Right.
Yeah, that's the biggest one is trust.
Well, and transformation takes generations. Mm-hmm. It does. You can't just, with poverty and the issues at this level, you can't just go in and do one thing and be done.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we've seen in being there. It's like started with the widows. They're the children. Let's build a school. Mm-hmm. What are some of kind of those offshoots that have cropped up over the years in terms of the programs that we now help our friends in Tanzania implement?
Yeah. So, Pastor Warieli, who's still heavily involved, just has a heart for those in need. And so the kids at our school are doing well academically. They're doing well from a health standpoint. So when we're over there and serving them, we can't help but get in touch with kids who are not at our school. There's probably 2,000 kids in the village who don't go to our school. And we see them through some of the other programs we do, like Vacation Bible School, some of our health clinics. We'll reach out to those public schools. And so you start to see the need that's just outside the walls of the school. There are businesses that are hundreds of yards away from the school that are struggling. And so we just run into those needs naturally by being involved in the community. So it's evolved into healthcare for the entire district. It's evolved into helping businesses in the village. It's evolved into doing food silos for the public schools around our school. Just there's every time you turn around, God shows us more need.
Right.
And at the same time, He gives us resources to meet that need.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. Let's talk a little bit about the Tanzanian culture, because I think a lot of people, especially here in the U.S., Tanzania is just kind of an abstract country in Africa. Share more about Tanzania and the culture and the people in particular.
It's such a special place because of the people, right? And you're nodding your head. We learn about cold cultures and warm cultures. Cold cultures being those that are, more concerned with getting tasks done. Tanzanian is exactly the opposite. They're more concerned with relationship and knowing the person. So just from the moment you get there, they're so warm and inviting. Invite you into your home immediately, no matter how little they have, and will give you whatever they have. They're a joyous people. I was driving down the road on the way to the airport on the last trip, getting ready to go home, and in front of me there was a vehicle, a pickup truck, with it must have been 20 people hanging on this truck, and they were singing. And so I took out my phone and took a picture. And they were waving. There was no, hey, what are you doing? Why are you taking a picture? They're just waving, having a great time. And as they peeled off to take a left, I hung my head out the window and I yelled, "Buona Safiwe," which means praise the Lord. And, just got this, mile-wide smiles from all 20 people. And the response to that typically is, amen. Mm-hmm. So you get the amen. And it was a great parting shot of just the culture, the way it is there. And it's like that everywhere you go.
I wasn't prepared for the warmth of the people. I really wasn't. I mean, they are, everyone I met, it's like when you're in our presence, you're family. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just kind of the way they are. Mm-hmm. And, they are a Swahili speaking people. A lot of them do speak English. Mm-hmm. But it just, the language was not a barrier in a lot of instances. You just kind of find your way around it.
Yeah. Another great story, you see this all the time, despite the poverty and the kids not having much at all in terms of toys or, we've done vacation Bible school programs where they end up getting a bowl of porridge as the meal. And, that's a huge deal. Like, you heard people say, wow, they would come to VBS and hear the gospel, but then they're also thrilled to get a meal like that. And you're looking at it, and it's a bowl of pretty bland porridge. But even though that they're so poor and don't, get a lot, countless times we'll give a candy bar to a child, and they'll break it in half and find their friend and give them the other half. Which is just, how big of a deal it is to get that. Yeah. And yet they share it with their friend. Yeah. And that's so typical.
That's the Tanzanian people. I mean, they're so giving and gracious. And we, the American partner, which is what they call us, it's like we've learned so much from them along the way. We give in certain ways, but they give so much to us in return, which is the very, very cool part about being involved with Ubora.
Yeah, you can't replicate that. And a lesson on selflessness, you won't get a better lesson than to see a child give away half a candy bar when you know that's probably the only candy bar they get. Yeah, in a year's time.
Right, and they're so resourceful. I mean, they've learned they have to be. And you shared a cool story with me. Our partners at Perimeter, they bought a new playground set. And do you remember what you were like, now you can get rid of that old one? And you got scolded a little bit because our director over there said.
Yeah. So, we like to reuse things here. And so this playground was there from the beginning.
Yeah, it was.
It was pretty rickety.
Pretty dangerous.
It's like, oh, no, we're going to repair that and give it to the local public school.
Yeah.
And reuse. Because that was a big deal to that public school to have that.
Yeah.
And we look at it as a scrap.
Right. And just the public education in Tanzania, there's just so little financial resources. So you'll have 100 kids in a classroom sharing one textbook. They're crowded into all gathered around, a few desks. And holes in the floor. I mean, it's really something else. But those kids are there to learn, and they are joyous in the process.
Yeah.
It doesn't compute. I mean, we see such joy every time we go to visit those government schools.
Yeah, and just thankfulness to even be in school.
Right.
And they're so eager to learn.
Yeah.
It's something that, we're kind of losing here perhaps in our culture, and they're gaining it. They're seeing the potential.
Right.
It's so heartwarming to see how eager these kids are to learn.
I know. They're amazing. I can't wait to go back. Okay, rather than creating solutions for our friends in Tanzania, we come alongside. Help us understand more about the importance of coming alongside and what that means.
Yeah. For me, it's grounded in the truth that we are all created in God's image. We're all created to want to create ourselves. We're created to have intellect and to be good stewards of the world. But you can't do that if you're so mired in just deep poverty. So our approach, if there's mercy and relief that's needed, like as the case was with the widows back in 2002, we feel like we should help there. But then as soon as possible, move into a mode where we're helping them to realize their potential as an image bearer of God, which, we've built a lot of buildings over there, but those are easy and they're not as important. It's now the hard part is to help realize the potential that's within everybody over there. So that's the hard work. So it's really there's confidence building. I think coming alongside means that we let them know that they're loved by Christ. Let them know that they've got friends who have their back, that they can, not worry so much about maybe tomorrow and where they're going to get food, but hey, let's think about how I can shape my future and how I can influence and solve problems within my own community. And that's a mindset change.
Yeah.
That's just hard to do. And that's the next decade, I think, that's where we'll be looking.
Right.
But coming alongside, to me, is a starting point. It's helping to provide a starting point, physical assets, but then also in your spiritual side, letting them know that they're loved, and then on the physical side, letting them know they've got some margin to start being creative and solving problems themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and we've never pretended to have the answers.
Right.
It's I think the generations before us and the generations after us have served with open hands. It's like, I think people that are attracted to Ubora know that it's a place of humble leadership. Right?
Right.
It is really, if you're going over there to teach them something, this is probably not the place for you. Mm-hmm. Right?
Right. It can be humbling. We definitely know that we don't have the answers. And so, coming alongside means let's figure this out together.
Right. And to be able to say we have we figured it out despite language barriers, time zones, 24-hour travel differences. We've figured out kind of a rhythm and a cadence to really be in true community with these people.
Yeah.
The bonds that have been made over the years between people in Tanzania and people in Atlanta, they're like family type bonds.
I was going to say, so you were just there for the first time, right? And when you walked onto the campus, how did it feel?
I mean, when I stepped foot on Tanzanian soil, I was like, I don't know. I felt so fully alive, more so than I've ever felt. And I really don't know why,
Yeah.
And I knew, I knew a lot of the people. I knew about the campus, but it just, I don't know. It was a blast in every way. Mm-hmm. It just, I just felt like I was on point, on purpose.
Yeah. We recently hired a new person to come on board, Emily Weaver, and it was meaningful for me that that you mentioned the 24-hour travel to get there, and the first thing we did before we entered the gate of the school, we prayed, and just that going in would be the start of something new for Emily. And I think when she walked in, and I know for you too, Rita, when you walk in, it just feels like home.
Oh, well, church, but we went to church before.
Oh, okay.
And Tanzanian church is just next level awesome. Congo line, everything so loud. It was just the most amazing worship experience of my life, for sure.
Pardon the leaf blower.
Nice weather does that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so our focus is really in a small village. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that, we have limited resources, limited people. Let's just focus here, lift up a village to transform a nation, lift up a village to transform a nation. Talk to us a little bit more kind of about that strategic play with Ubora.
Yeah, I think one of our core competencies, aside from just persistence and going back all these years, is deep relationships. That's just built into our DNA, and so we're really, I think, good, and we focus on building those deep relationships with individuals there, and letting the results happen because of those deep relationships within one community, and then letting God take that and do with that example what he will across either the district or the nation. We've seen that in our education. It's a great example. I mean, our education started 15 years ago with the school. We've had just deep relationships. U.S. teachers pouring into Tanzanian teachers, Tanzanian teachers pouring into the U.S. teachers. And after all this time, the school has become one of the best in the country. And it wasn't done, by some grand plan. It was done by pouring into individuals in a Christ-like discipling type of way. Right. So that's our model. And in education, we've seen that God has taken that, and He's given us the connections to the district level government, and then also the national level. The Ministry of Education is interested in what we're doing and how, the school philosophy and how we teach, which is very different than Tanzanian education. So it is very credible to say that we can impact the education of the entire Tanzanian nation. So that's our model. That's how we work. And then, I'm sorry, I've forgotten the question. The dog.
Sorry, Hazel Ray. Talk a little bit about changing Tanzanian curriculum and how they used to learn. Mm-hmm. And, over the years, our Atlanta-based teachers have, just to unpack that a little bit.
Sure,
I think it's so interesting.
Yeah, the education challenges start with the challenges of the nation at large. So Tanzania really just became independent in 1963, mm-hmm. and they started just building school after school after school in an effort to create the foundations for a country. Well, in doing that, the resources became scarce, and they didn't have a lot of resources to put into the teachers in those classrooms. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the system was set up that the folks who may not have done as well over there in school were slated to become the teachers. So plenty smart people but just no resources and not a lot of training.
Yes.
And so the whole system, if you've got a lot of kids to teach and not a lot of resources to do it, was based on rote memory. Mm-hmm. So, and if you don't have a lot of textbooks, you're writing things on a chalkboard and having the kids memorize. And so the challenges that we saw was that the whole system was built on just memory, rote memory. The example just that breaks your heart is we had one of our teachers. This was not a student. This was a teacher that didn't realize that math was real or what math was used for, even addition. So a lot of the work we've done has worked on helping foster creative thinking, critical thinking, and learning for true understanding. Yeah. And so it's just taken years to develop that within our teachers and change that whole way in a whole approach to education. So lots of things with, manipulatives and different learning styles. That was a big one, is learning that kids learn in different ways, right? Some of us learn by hearing, some of us learn by doing, some of us learn, kinesthetically and, all the different ways. And so they weren't doing any of that over there. It was just simply write it down and memorize it. And so a lot of our teacher work has been to introduce those new ways of teaching. The thing that stood out for me is the minister of education once said that people say that there are no jobs in Africa or in Tanzania. But he said there's plenty of jobs because there's plenty of problems to solve. We just don't have people who are trained to think and solve the problems. And so that's what we're trying to do.
Symptomatic.
Yeah. And, again, it has nothing to do with the intellect and creativity and ingenuity of the people who live there. It's just the system that they've had for their education.
Yeah.
So,
we've created this amazing Christian English medium school, and then the kids go off to secondary school, perhaps university. And then during a recent visit, you were in the village, and what did you notice?
Quick story. The place where we stay is on the outskirts of the village. And every day when we go in to serve at our school, we drive in through the village, and there's usually a pretty decent sized crowd of young men, probably 18 to 20 years old, and they're there every day. We go back year after year, and they're there year after year, just hanging out. And we have to drive through that crowd and to get over to the school. You get into the school, and it's a beacon of hope there.
Oasis.
Well, recently we did a service project during the 20th anniversary celebration. We usually don't do this kind of service, but this time we had a lot of people there. We went out and cleaned the village, helped clean the market up in preparation for market day. And in doing that, some of the guys that we had driven through in the morning were there, and they were mocking those of us who were helping clean the market up. And so I noticed it, and it didn't bother me too bad that they were mocking us. It's kind of a typical teenager thing, to be expected. But then as we were cleaning up, I'll keep it the rated G version here, but we were cleaning up, and there were some things in the stuff that we were picking up and throwing away that indicated that there were some problems in that group of people, the young men. And this was hundreds of yards from our school. And so it just hit me that for years and years, every day that we're there, we're driving through these young men almost saying, get out of the way, we're trying to get over to the school. And so it just convicted me that there's a huge need in that group of people in the village. And some of the things that we saw from the mocking and the things that we were picking up in terms of alcohol and potential drugs and other behavior that isn't godly at all, that these guys did not know Jesus at all. Mm-hmm. And if there were going to be problems in that community, it would probably be coming from there. So that's a huge need that we see now. And it's one that's really exciting to go and show the love of Christ to this group who probably has never felt that at all.
They've always been kind of the outcast.
Mm-hmm. And so there's just huge potential there. And I'm excited about the next years. It's going to be like the next group that we pour into, much as we did the teachers back in beginning in 2005. And look where that stands today.
Right. We can, bring the men back to their rightful place in the village as fathers, as providers, as husbands, dads. I mean, that will be a huge win.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and we also hear about a lot of the challenges that young women have culturally. The Maasai culture, which is one of the tribes in Tanzania, one of the things over there that many people recognize as being a challenge across the country is that the men view women as being less valuable than their cows. So there's the whole, selling off your daughter for X amount of cows, that sort of behavior. There's things where the young men feel that they can take young women at will and make them their wives and things like that. And so that's a problem. And so certainly would be desire to help there too. And we want to do that and plan to do that. But I almost see if we help these young men, it solves a lot of that along the way.
Right.
It's going to be
complicated. It's so complicated over there.
Yeah.
It's what's complicated here too. But, I think we are there to help them figure it out. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when those problems are in your backyard, you can just become blind to them. Mm-hmm. So I think that's so amazing that God kind of opened your eyes to this is vulnerable population that needs love and needs to be served as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. This will be a free plug for The Chosen. But if any of you have seen the episode of The Woman at the Well, it was so well done and it showed just how Christ came for that woman who was totally ostracized and forgotten. I don't know. I see that sort of thing happening with these young men.
Yes.
As well.
For sure. And then I know on another recent trip, you noticed that some of the graduates from our school were back in the village. That was kind of eye-opening and led the way to the internship program. So
yeah,
share more about that.
So a number of people involved in that. Cindy James leading the charge there. But yeah, so it's a small village. It's been a very, very poor village. And so parents there don't have the contacts. They don't have the context of how to help their children find jobs. So even Ubora and Shefo help their children go from kindergarten all the way through secondary school, which is basically high school. And then those who qualify, we have a scholarship program and get them through college. But then there are no jobs. It's very competitive to find jobs. And so if your folks they've only been a farmer, and there's nothing wrong with being a farmer, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But most of the parents have not had an education past the fourth grade. If that, right. And just don't know how to help their kids get a job. So there is no one to help their kids get a job once they've had this education that we've been so blessed to help them get. So we realized that we could step in and come alongside and just with our experiences that we've been blessed to have, help them find these jobs. And so just like everywhere, you can't get a job because you don't have experience, and you don't have experience because you don't have a job. And so we help break that cycle. We've created the internship program led by Cindy, as I mentioned, and we have kind of two categories. One is an internal internship. Our partner, Chefo, who we've worked with all these 20 years, they've got a lot going on and they need some help. And so we're giving some of our graduates experience working at Chefo, and we've got mentors to help them learn. We've got a little bit of a training course that gives them soft skills and things to help them really become ready to get a job. Quick example that illustrates the need is one of our graduates, Jackson, studied IT and through college, and in his coursework, he said that he never touched a computer because even the universities don't have a lot of resources. So imagine going through a whole IT college experience without having touched a computer. So we're able to help come alongside, bring in computers. We've got Louis Stridham is helping him learn, become Microsoft certified. My goodness, what a credential to have over there. No one is Microsoft certified. So, and then now Jackson's helping to run the computers at the school, the computers in our lab for the kids. And he's got a very marketable skill now. And so we help solve that inexperience gap for Jackson. And now we're doing it for a bunch of others, internal to Chefo. And then we also have an external program, just using our contacts and our, just experience in networking to help find jobs outside of Chefo, paid internships. So we've had some of our team members with contacts that happen to have suppliers in the apparel industry in Tanzania. We use those connections to get some of our interns paying jobs. So, we can now say we take the kids all the way from kindergarten through job. And it's been an amazing experience. Tons of mentoring opportunities for people here in the States. Tons of opportunities to help us network and contacts. You never know how your network can help, even over in Tanzania.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I think people listening may be wondering, okay, most of your partner base is in America, Tanzania is 24 hours away. How do you do that? How do you serve a community so far away?
Yeah. We've got rudimentary infrastructure in place in terms of internet connectivity. We've got some things going on that will vastly increase that. But mentoring, we do, relationships are our lifeblood. And so we do a lot of Zoom calls with our kids in the school. We're trying to do more and more Zoom calls or video calls with the kids in the internship program. So there is tons of opportunity to help without getting out of your house here. Another example is we ended up outfitting the hospital in the region. And there we had a whole team of people, a whole chain that made that happen. Someone donated hospital beds. Team here in the States went and got the beds. We had people donate computers. We had people then clean the beds, prepare the computers, and put them on a container for shipment. So that was just a huge work, chunk of work that you can do here.
Yeah.
That greatly helped the district and the school over there. Right. So there's mentoring. There's just I don't know what you call it, but just getting stuff done for Tanzania here. You never know what your background can bring.
Yeah, and that's the thing I love about Ubora. You can be, a lot of nonprofits, your relationship is transactional. Like if you're a monthly donor, you're making that monthly donation. But, it's with Ubora, you can really get in there and serve and have a relationship with somebody that is, another culture, it's just such an amazing experience.
Yeah, I hate to use this term, but it's a sandbox that's big enough and yet small enough for us to operate in with meaning. And I say that for an example. We were able to get those computers and ship them over. Well, once they got there, we're blessed with being connected to the government now. Louis Stridham, who helped with those computers, literally got connected to the district IT person, the guy in charge of all computers in the district. And so Louis is now working with him. We're gonna install those computers at the hospital, get it set up with the software that they need, help them get trained on it, and then the big win is that all of the medical records over there are now done on paper. Things get lost, prescriptions don't happen, follow-up doesn't happen. And so because of our relationship with the district IT person, we're going to be able to scan 25,000 records into these computers. That's a whole project unto itself.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one important thing to say is it's our relationships with the local government really allow us to get things done. And it's amazing how quickly you can get plugged in to people who can make things happen there. We've got people here who can make things happen and people there who are in charge. So it's a good sized, again, hate to use this term, but it's a good sized sandbox that we're working in. And God's given us connections to get a lot of things done in there. So if you want to really help build a community, it's a great place to come and do that.
Well, and help build a country.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Right.
And, even though we are lifting up a village, our work is in that village, we have connections, exposure to some very high levels of parliament. I mean, you've got all kinds of people in your phone that, very high. So it's just been that connection that has enabled us to really make a big difference in some areas.
Yeah, it really is amazing. We know the people in the Ministry of Education, we know the people in the Ministry of Health who are sitting in Parliament, so you can get a lot of things done, and with a Christian worldview, which is the cool part.
Yeah.
So God is definitely giving us access and influence, and just got to prayerfully use that in ways that are consistent with God's plan.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk about some of the specifics of our impact initiatives that we have going on there. So we talked a lot about education. We have a school. A lot. That's kind of. A lot of our work is focused on that area, but we have a lot of other things going on too. So if you want to just unpack a little bit about each one of those.
Yeah, I'll just, branch out from our school. We're starting to work in the public schools. I think I mentioned the food silos. The government ran out of money to fund the public school meal program. And so we're helping to supply silos there. Thanks to Griffin Stewart and folks at 5 Day Deal, they helped us fund so far 12 silos that are providing meals for kids at the public schools in a really neat program with the parents. Ubora will match the grain that they grow and fill those silos so the kids can have meals before school and at lunch. So that's one. I mentioned the Vacation Bible School program. We're reaching out to churches in the area to touch probably 10,000 kids over the course of a summer with just a different way for them to experience the gospel.
Yeah. Cool things going on with business.
Yeah. I was working through. So in the business world, there's so many, I guess the best way to describe there's a whole a couple different tiers that we're looking at now. We do still work with our widows, a very important group. We do spiritual counseling, Bible studies with our widows. But then for them, they need a way to sustain themselves long term. So on the business side, we're coming up with income generating projects for them, soap making. There's incredible coffee grown in the region. And so the widows are grinding the coffee and selling coffee that's ready to drink. So, income generating kind of microfinance type projects with the widows. The next tier we call sponsor driven projects. So as an example, we're looking to work with those young men that I mentioned, work with them on a spiritual level, but then also on a business level, and give them skills with the intent of starting small businesses in the area. There's a lot of guys who are doing woodworking in makeshift facilities and with makeshift equipment. A lot of people doing motorcycle repair. There's ideas for a bakery. We have a data center model that we've run a pilot on. And so those sort of businesses would be, hey, let's work with these folks, build relationships, and then help them start a small business. And then on the big scale, there are some opportunities in the region for larger businesses to come in, such as large scale avocado farms, perhaps cut flour business in there. So there's those three different tiers of business that we're working on. In addition to training, Lee Williams is leading that whole effort. He'll go in and do consulting with some of the small businesses, help them how to use a ledger and identify products that are profitable and those that are not, and just help them grow their business, help them make it more profitable, which really directly impacts the food on the table for their family.
Yeah, for sure. And then child sponsorship has been, at the heart of the success of the school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Currently 300 children at our school. All of those children are sponsored by typically someone here in the U.S. Like to think that's a little bit different sponsorship model. It is very hands-on, very interactive, lots of video calls, lots of letters as usual. But then, a lot of our sponsors go and visit. So, many sponsors know their children and know the needs of the family, and directly step in and help when needed. So we're looking to expand that out into the public schools as well.
That's so cool.
The biggest one, or not the biggest one, but another big initiative is in the medical side. I've alluded to that. We have a budding partnership with Georgetown University, and we've got regular trips going over with Georgetown faculty and students to help screen children in the public schools, do doctor and nurse training, and then just really help give strategic guidance to the doctors and nurses in the region.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's amazing. So maybe we need Emily to answer this question about a mission trip. What does a mission trip to Tanzania serving in our village look like? Emily Weaver, welcome to the Relevate podcast.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
We are just delighted to have you be a part of the Ubora team. And I think your whole journey to getting here is content for another day, because I think it's pretty awesome that you've had a great job as an engineer like Dave, and then you just felt the call to use your life for something different.
Yeah, crazy story. We'll have to do that one day.
Okay. Well, in your new role, one of the big things you do is coordinate our mission trips to Tanzania. And I know for me, I never imagined that I would hop on a plane and fly 24 hours and go to Tanzania, but it's one of the best, most amazing things I've ever done.
Glad you did it.
I'm glad I did it and got to meet you over there. So let's just talk a little bit about mission trips.
Yeah.
And why would anyone want to go to Tanzania?
I mean, well, why wouldn't you want to go? It's beautiful. No, there are just so many opportunities for good, so many opportunities to serve. Everyone has a skill that you can bring. Everyone has love that you can show to these people in Tanzania who just need that and love that from us. And I think you know, it's a step out of a comfort zone for most people, but it's a really, really great one.
For sure, for sure. And Dave talked a little bit about we need volunteers to go on mission trips that have a background in business or that are teachers. So just if you can share just kind of some of those different types of opportunities to serve while you're there, kind of some of those needs you're looking to fill.
And we have, I think, 10 trips on the books like that we're looking at for next year. So that's super exciting. Lots of opportunities for people to get over there. Lots of different types of trips. We have several business trips that are going. So for anyone who has any sort of business experience, honestly, just as an American consumer, you probably have relatable business experience in Tanzania. So lots of business trips. I think we have maybe 3 or 4 scheduled for 2023. We have a teacher trip. So for any teachers who are interested in going, I think what's really cool about the teacher trip is that they're there for a week in the summer while the students are on break. So they have one-on-one, like direct training with teachers, lots of like collaboration time. And then they're there for a week after that, right when the students get back from their like 1 month break in the middle of the school year. So that's just a really cool time, I think, for them to collaborate directly with the teachers and then see that in action with the students. So that's a really, really great trip. We also have a vacation Bible school trip in summer, I think around June. So that's a great trip for people, families to go. Bring your children. It's direct hands-on time with kids all over the Siha district, which is the sort of like the county that our village Karansi is in. And so, yeah, it's that trip is really, if you have any desire to just get over there and see it, you're like, maybe I don't have great business experience or I'm not a teacher.
That's a good one to
I would really point you towards the VBS trip. And kind of if you have any sort of side projects that you'd like to look at, that's kind of a good one that we can work into that week of Vacation Bible School. We also have some agriculture trips. So for anyone who's interested in farming or ag, that'll be probably end of 2023. And then we have a few medical trips. So with our partnership with Georgetown, we're looking for a few student trips for Georgetown nursing students to come over and do some health screening clinics for students in our district, in the Siha district in Tanzania, and then also do some collaborative training with the nurses at the Siha district hospital.
Sure. So, and I think in a lot of those trips, you don't have to have specific expertise. Like if like there's a medical trip going, but then there's like some kind of admin roles that you can help stock supplies, and you just need to have willing hands and hearts to go.
Anyone who wants to go, there is a place for you. Yeah, exactly. Medical trip. There is so much admin stuff. You can be supportive roles are needed in those type settings, and almost every trip that you can think of, there's going to be that type. We're going to need people like that who can be the person to just help support, make the trip run smoothly, make sure that things are getting coordinated and operating how they're supposed to. So
yeah, for sure. For sure. And then there may, that's the cool thing about being a small nonprofit. We can, we're praying about sports trips, because that's what better way than to minister to the kids through sports, because that's, you bring a soccer ball and it is game on.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
So, if someone has expertise in planning a soccer league or medical expertise like a physical therapist, it's like reach out to us and let's talk, and we'll find a place for you to serve, because the need is so great in all areas.
And even if it sounds, like, I don't know, I don't have much business experience, I'm not a teacher, how can I fit in? There is a place for you. We can use anyone and everyone who just has a heart to get over there and serve. And we'd love to have you. Send me an email and we'll get you on a trip.
Yeah. And we also, let's talk about the Kilimanjaro trip.
True. Yes. So last year, for the first time, Ubora had a team of climbers go over and hike Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
It was incredible. They came down so pumped. Like, it was awesome. They were just spent 6 days. Can you imagine? Like, Rena and I were praying from the bottom of the mountain for the climbers on the top. It
is, you cannot believe how big Kilimanjaro is.
Huge.
And from our village, I mean, you'll be walking down the street and then boom, there's Kilimanjaro on one side and Mount Meru on the other. I mean, it is right there.
So funny. Yeah, we were in the village with Dave, and one day leaving the school, and he goes, man, I just cannot believe I climbed all the way up there. It's huge. But yeah, so we have another opportunity to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Summer 2023. We're looking early July. So if that's something that interests you,
hit us up.
Yes.
Yeah. And we also have cool tools that, I know I was blown away by people, just generous people who want to support, who want to support mission trips.
Yes.
And, we make fundraising easy. If you can't afford it yourself, chances are if you just share it on social media and write a few letters, and people will wholeheartedly support your endeavor. It's a really cool thing that happens when you go on a mission trip.
Absolutely. Yeah. Please do not be intimidated by the cost. I think that can be a deterrent for people when you see a price tag, like, how am I going to afford a flight to Tanzania? Mm-hmm. But people want to help, and people, you let them know your need, share it on Facebook. Mm-hmm. People will donate and just really help. I mean, I saw it happen this week. Someone shared their trip that they're going on in a few months, and their trip was paid for within 3 days, just from sharing it on Facebook. I mean, people want to help serve. They see you're going over there to do something good, and they want to help support that. So I really ask that you pray about that, and don't let that be a deterrent, because I really think that there's people to support you in that situation. Another thing that I want to talk about, so when you're on a trip, what does that look like, right? So typically for us, say you fly out of Atlanta, where we're located, looking like 8-hour flight to Amsterdam, lay over there, and then we've got another 8 to 9 hour flight to Kilimanjaro. So it's a long travel day. You get there, you land at night. So you get there the following day after you left. Land at night, travel, finally go to bed. You're exhausted. You lay down, and then you wake up. And you're in Tanzania. Yes, it's amazing, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful country. So then that's probably around Saturday morning when you arrive there. Typically our trips, we leave Thursday, so get there late Friday night. Saturday morning, you get up and you kind of get ready for the week, get prepped, set up for whatever you're going to be working on that week. Sunday morning, we'll go to church, and then Monday hit the ground running. Whatever type of trip you're on, you'll be focused on that week. We spend a lot of time at the school. That's kind of like our home base when we're there. So if you're going out on a business meeting or you have some trainings that you're going to be doing, kind of start off at SLS, Sea Leadership School. It's our home base. There all week, and then usually after that is safari, which I am so excited about. I did not get to go on safari last time I went, and I get to go on safari here in a few weeks when I go back to Tanzania again, and I cannot wait. See so many animals, I'm just so excited. You did get to go on safari.
I got on a one-day one.
I
got to see some pretty awesome giraffes.
Oh, giraffes.
I know.
Jealous. Yes.
And on the drive out to our land, we saw zebras running across the road, which was...
Right. Oh, That's amazing.
I know. It's just so beautiful and so incredible. And there's not a lot of ambient light at night. So the stars are so magnificent. I just didn't know it was going to like totally captivate me. I just can't wait to go. Cannot wait to go back. It's truly a magical,
I know,
hope and faith filled place.
Absolutely. Yes. You can just feel it. It's incredible. Yeah. So if you're thinking about it, please email me, Emily Weaver at uboratz.org.
So to me, it's a trip with purpose. It's a mission trip, but it's kind of an adventure trip too.
Absolutely.
Yes. And then you add the safari on the end of it, and a chance to really kind of expand your network and experience something new. I cannot recommend it highly enough.
Exactly. Love it.
Cool. So let's have you close us down. So if people want to get in touch with us, what's the best way to?
Yeah. So our website is uboratz.org. You can check out everything that we're doing there. We keep it pretty updated. And then email me. I'm Emily Weaver at uboratz.org.
Okay, we have a Relevate podcast takeover here. It's the first.
Okay, Rena, question for you.
Okay.
For someone who's struggling with finding meaning or purpose in life, what would you say about the importance of faith and service?
That's a very good question. So I think, we all have discontent in our hearts at times. But if you've never really been exposed to volunteering, serving, going on a mission trip, you don't know that could be the missing piece in your life, right? You've never been exposed to it. Yeah. And there is something, when you volunteer with an organization like Ubora, there's many, many other nonprofits that we would encourage you to get involved with us as well. It's a chance to kind of get out of your head and, just do something for another person, for another country. And I mean, it frees you in ways that you just can't even imagine.
It's a big, big world.
It is. It's a big world out there. And to just be willing to say, I'm going for it. I may be 50 some years old. I've never been on a mission trip, but you know what? I'm going for it. And you know what? It could change your life.
What a way to give perspective to your problems.
Exactly. Yeah. You're never too old. You're never too young. We have kids going all the time, hopping on a plane with their parents, going to Tanzania. I mean, it will change your life. It will change our friends over there, your kids' lives. Just be open-handed and open-hearted and willing to go.
Awesome. Great answer.
Good question, Emma. Thank you for joining me on the Relevate podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for your willingness to just serve wholeheartedly and just be willing to help an amazing village and amazing, country of people over there. It's a joy to serve with you and Dave and all the people that make Ubora possible. It is a volunteer-driven organization. And if you want to roll up your sleeves and get involved, just give us a call.
Come on.
Let's go. What Swahili words have you learned?
Oh, boy. I need to be practicing my Swahili. Karibu.
Karibu.
Karibu sana. Asante Sana. Jambo.
Mambo.
That one.
So.
Got about 5 words.
You got 2 more than me.
Oh, man.
Okay. Thank you, Emily.
Thanks, Rena.
Keep up the great work.
Oh.
Serving others truly has transformational power. If your life is feeling less than, I encourage you to turn your focus on a cause other than yourself. There are so many nonprofits like Ubora that need people like you. They need your time, your talent, your heart, and your financial support. I, of course, am very partial to Ubora and would encourage you to learn more. Our website is uboratz.org. See link in show notes for details. Ubora also has a brand new, amazing documentary produced by filmmaker Nick Cannon that we would love to bring to your community or your place of business or your church. If you're interested, reach out to us on the website and let's connect. I'm Rena Olson, and this is Relevate.